The ancient halls of the Tarvok Collective's galactic archives were silent, save for the faint hum of crystallized data cores embedded in the walls. Elder Quarn, his frills faintly glowing in the dim chamber, studied an ancient conquest map with a quiet intensity. Across the table sat Nylath, young and eager, his crest pulsing with curiosity. Elder Quarn, Nylath began hesitantly, his mandibles clicking softly. "May I ask you something?" Quarn's spiny frills twitched, his 6 eyes shifting toward him. "You may ask, Nylath, but whether I answer depends." Nylath hesitated, but his curiosity burned too brightly to ignore. "It's about the records of Earth," he said, his voice cautious yet insistent. "It's listed as an abandoned conquest. No details, no reports, just a single line. Do not return. Why? What happened there?" Quarn's glowing frills dimmed slightly. His claws stilled, and for a moment he avoided his gaze. Instead, he focused on the map, tapping absently at a corner that bore no relevance to their conversation. "Earth," he muttered, almost to himself. "It's not a topic we discuss lightly." But Nylath leaned forward, undeterred. "Elder Quarn, I've reviewed every conquest record from the past 2 millennia. Earth is the only one shrouded in mystery. The Collective's motto is to learn and adapt, to evolve from every encounter. How can we evolve if we're too afraid to face our mistakes?" Quarn let out a slow, rattling exhale, his frills twitching with agitation. He looked at him for a long moment, his 6 eyes narrowing in resignation. "You're persistent, young one," he said finally, his voice tinged with reluctant respect. "Perhaps it's time someone knew the truth. But mark my words, young one, once you hear this tale, you may wish you hadn't. The truth about Earth is not one of honor. It is a tale of hubris, terror, and seasoning. Well, let's just say it's why I can never look at a boiled shellfish platter the same way again." Nylath's crest dimmed slightly, but he nodded. "I'm ready, Elder." Quarn's claws resumed their rhythmic tapping as he began. It started as most conquests do. Earth was an unassuming target, resource-rich, technologically primitive, and sparsely defended. A gem ripe for the plucking. We descended upon them with the full might of the Tarvok Armada, taking them completely by surprise. Their leaders attempted to rally their people, and the humans fought with a ferocity that was unexpected. And their language. Oh, their language. It was crude, guttural, lacking the sophistication and elegance of our noble clicks and vibrations. To us, it was little more than noise, unworthy of consideration. But we were not there to talk, to educate, or to enlighten. We were there to conquer them, to enslave them, to strip their planet of its resources and bend them to our will. Our technology outmatched their primitive weapons. Their courage was admirable, but it was not enough to withstand the might of our energy shields and plasma arrays. Within days, their command structures crumbled, and their people bowed before us. For months, we ruled them with ease. Everything was going smoothly at first. We ruled them with an iron fist, establishing control over their major cities and extracting their planet's abundant resources with ruthless efficiency. Their oceans became our fuel, their metals fed our forges. Every human, man, woman, and child was enslaved. They worked under our watchful eyes, their spirits broken, and their resistance shattered. And for a time, it seemed like just another successful conquest for the Tarvok Collective. We had no reason to suspect anything would go awry. Quarn's frills twitched, and for the first time he let out a small, pained chuckle. "Ah, yes, the unfortunate series of events. Earth is home to a variety of shelled sea creatures, crabs, lobsters, shrimp, small, harmless animals that humans consume with relish. It appears that our biology bore an unfortunate resemblance to these creatures. You see, one of our scouts was patrolling a coastal area. Well, somehow this soldier managed to get himself caught in one of their fishing nets. A soldier, mind you, who had been trained to outsmart plasma turrets and outfight whole armies, and yet he couldn't escape a net. Curse that soldier!" Nylath leaned forward, wide-eyed. "What happened to him?" Quarn nodded gravely, though the faintest hint of a smile played on his face. "Caught by a net. But that's not the worst part. The worst part came next. The human fisherman who caught him was, shall we say, a bit enthusiastic or drunk. He took one look at our soldier and, instead of running for his life, decided he had caught the biggest, most bizarre crab he'd ever seen." Nylath froze, his crest shot up, his mandibles trembling. "What did he do?" Clearly not prepared for this revelation. "Cooked him. Yes, he did," Quarn confirmed with a rueful sigh. The fisherman thought he had struck gold, or perhaps crab, as it were. Our bodies, you see, resemble their crabs in certain ways. Our soldier, still dazed and confused from the net, probably thought he was going to be rescued, only to end up in a boiling pot of water. He didn't even have time to use his plasma pistol. The worst part? The human loved it. It wasn't until the fisherman was about to chow down on his last bite that he found the plasma pistol floating in the broth. Nylath covered his mandibles with a trembling claw, his crest flickering erratically. That's barbaric. They didn't even know what he was, and they just ate him? Korn's claws drummed rapidly on the table, his voice growing tighter as he spoke. And then the news spread like wildfire. It was no longer the invaders are powerful or the invaders have superior technology. Oh no, it became the invaders are tasty. They taste like crabs. Nylath's mandibles froze mid-twitch, his crest flickering with alarm. You're joking. I wish I were, Korn said darkly. What began as one fisherman's bizarre dinner turned into an unstoppable frenzy. Humans, who had once cowered in fear under our rule, suddenly saw us as... He paused, his 6 eyes narrowing in shame. Dinner. Nylath's claws gripped the table. Our slaves became our diners? Korn nodded solemnly, his frills dimming to a dull glow. Yes, entire resistance cells formed, not to free themselves from servitude, but to secure the next Tarvok feast. Some of our captured warriors were even exported to other nations as exotic imports. Entire colonies disappeared overnight. The humans were relentless, and their hunger was unending. They didn't just hunt us, they celebrated it. Recipes began circulating. Boiled Tarvok, grilled Tarvok bisque. Even their word for delicacy began to sound suspiciously like invader. Korn's frills twitched violently, his voice rising with both exasperation and disbelief. At first, we dismissed the incidents as isolated anomalies. A few confused humans here and there mistaking our soldiers for some kind of giant armored seafood. We laughed it off in the council chambers. Oh, how primitive they are, we said. What an amusing misunderstanding, we said. But soon the laughter stopped. What started as a few scattered incidents turned into something far more sinister. Entire human communities abandoned their forced labor and instead began organizing hunting parties. Not for rebellion, not for freedom. No, they had one goal, to catch us. And worse, to eat us. Nylath froze, his crest pulsing erratically with disbelief. They turned on us? For food? Yes, Korn snapped, his mandibles clacking in agitation. They abandoned their so-called revolutions, not because they feared us, but because they were too busy sharpening their cooking knives. They stopped building weapons and started refining recipes. Do you know what it's like to watch a slave labor camp turn into a barbecue festival overnight? Our patrols would vanish, only to reappear as the main attraction at some horrifying human feast. They even started experimenting with marinades. Marinades, Nylath. He paused, shaking his frills as if to dispel the memory, then continued, his voice trembling. The council was alarmed, of course. They decided to send reinforcements. An entire fleet of our finest warriors, equipped with the latest in energy shields, plasma weaponry, and armored carriers. We thought this would put an end to the humans' strange, barbaric behavior. But when our reinforcements landed, the humans cheered. Nylath recoiled in disbelief, his mandibles hanging open. They cheered. Oh yes, Korn groaned. They welcomed us, Nylath, not as invaders, not even as adversaries, but as more food. Whole towns gathered around our landing sites, holding up pots, pans, and utensils, waving them in the air like war banners. Some even had napkins tied around their necks. They'd set up makeshift signs that read, "Welcome to Flavortown" and "Dinner's here." And the worst part? They weren't joking. They genuinely thought we had delivered a fresh shipment of crab directly to their doorsteps. Soldiers disembarking their transports were met not with plasma fire, but with humans wielding nets and shouting things like, "Boil the big one first." They were diners, and we, Nylath, were the main course. He paused, his frills drooping in defeat. The reinforcements didn't stand a chance. The humans knew our weaknesses by then: nets, boiling water, and apparently butter. They developed traps baited with what they called Old Bay seasoning. They dipped us in molten butter and served us with wedges of citrus. They even wrote songs about us. Songs? Nylath croaked. Korn nodded grimly. One haunting melody remains in our archives, something about us being finger-licking good. Entire battalions were wiped out, not by battle, but by buffet lines. Our proud fleet became a floating seafood market. Humans were wearing bibs with pictures of us on them, Nylath. Bibs. Korn's frills dimmed to a dull, embarrassed glow as he continued, his voice heavy with the weight of their collective shame. Our leaders realized that staying meant extinction. We evacuated in shame, leaving behind only rumors and faint echoes of our rule. This wasn't just a defeat, Nylath. Oh no, this was something far worse. This was an embarrassment, a humiliation of galactic proportions. We, the mighty conquerors of worlds, the Tarvok Collective, whose armadas have subjugated star systems without breaking a sweat, were driven off Earth, not by superior technology, not by strategic brilliance, not even by sheer courage. No, we were defeated by humans and their hunger. Nylath's crest flickered nervously. Their hunger? Yes, Korn hissed, his mandibles clicking in frustration. Not a hunger for freedom or justice, but for taste. They didn't care about overthrowing us. They just wanted to know if we went better with garlic or lemon butter. Their drive for flavor outmatched every weapon we had in our arsenal. Plasma shields, energy cannons, orbital bombardments. None of it mattered when faced with the relentless force of human culinary innovation. Do you know how it feels to lose to a species whose greatest weapon is a deep fryer? He buried his face in his claws for a moment before continuing, his voice quieter but no less bitter. We ran, Nylath. Ran. Tail tucked firmly between our legs, figuratively speaking, of course. The council declared Earth off limits, marking it as a culinary hazard. The proud Tarvok fleeing in disgrace, not from a superior foe, but from a planet that saw us as their next all-you-can-eat buffet. It wasn't strategy that defeated us, nor bravery. It was seasoning. Seasoning, Nylath. Do you know what it's like to have your legacy boiled down, quite literally, to being the galaxy's most sought-after entree? Nylath sat in stunned silence, his crest flickering erratically as he tried to process the tale. So, that's why the records say, do not return. Korn nodded gravely, his frills dim and lifeless. Yes, Earth is a forbidden zone, not because it's dangerous in the traditional sense, but because it's humiliating. The council decided it was better to erase the incident from our history than to let it become a cautionary tale about underestimating hunger. To this day, just the smell of melted butter sends shivers down my frills. Nylath's mandibles twitched. And the humans, what do they call us now? Korn sighed deeply, his claws tapping the table in defeat. They call us space crabs. It's not even accurate. We're more closely related to... But Nylath interrupted, his crest flaring with the faintest flicker of amusement. Elder Korn, I think I've lost my appetite. Korn gave him a tired look, his 6 eyes narrowing. Good, at least someone has.